we're training to be healthier. We're training to live a healthier, fitter, stronger lifestyle. So by eating all those processed foods, I think and just eating specifically to the numbers without taking into account sort of what you're eating quite so much, you're missing out. You're really, firstly, eating to the detriment of your health. Okay, we are good to go. Hey guys, what is going on, and welcome back to the Fortem Training Podcast, episode number 7. We are now live on, we've been on YouTube, we're on SoundCloud, we are now live on iTunes and Stitcher as well. This is the first episode that's been recorded since the podcast went live. So what are we today? We are actually the 23rd today, 23rd of May. The podcast went live yesterday, 22nd of May. First episode went live, so now we are live on Stitcher and iTunes as well. So if you are still watching on SoundCloud, if it's easier for you to go and listen over on iTunes, then please do go over there and listen. Still on YouTube, if you are enjoying the podcast, please do leave a thumbs up. It really does help with getting it seen by more people, getting more people into it, and I would really appreciate your support. With that said, the support we've had after that first episode, massive thank you to everyone who has listened, everyone who has watched, everyone who has messaged in. I really do appreciate it so much. So thank you so much for all the support that you have brought this far. So today's episode number 7. Today we are starting off first half talking about a little bit about why macros don't always benefit your health. This sort of stemmed from somewhat from client interactions that we've had recently, sort of within the past 10 days or so, working with some new clients on their nutrition and those sorts of things. Then in the second half, we're going to talk a little bit more about how we work with our clients and sort of the approach we take to trying to meet them where they're at in terms of their nutrition. Then finish off that second half, the Chimp Paradox. I spoke about it a couple of episodes ago. I can't remember which episode it was, but I finished it. The audiobook, the Chimp Paradox. Those of you that have read it or listened to it, you'll know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I'm going to sort of sum up my thoughts, what I took from it, and sort of anything that I've implemented since listening, and sort of my overall thoughts on the book as a whole. Apologies, just getting this headset nice and comfortable. So yeah, kick us off. Why macros don't always benefit your health. And yeah, like I said, this comes from sort of a client interaction that I've had this week, or perhaps within the last sort of 10 days. It is Wednesday, so within the last 10 days or so, working with a couple of our clients on sort of dialing in their nutrition, trying to meet them where they're at and those sorts of things. So yeah, eating for macros, for those of you who don't know, calories, protein, carbs, fats, you get set numbers, then you track in MyFitnessPal or Fitbit, whichever one you prefer. MyFitnessPal is the one that I use and the one that I tend to recommend because it is super easy to use. Barcode, scan everything in, super simple. I use the free version. You can, if you want to be a little bit more in depth, there are some benefits to using the paid version. I'm not quite sure off the top of my head how much it is, but those of you that do use it, you will know how much that is and how much more benefit there is to using the paid version. But yeah, tracking your macros does not always necessarily mean that you are benefiting your health, because when you eat to macros, you're eating to the numbers, and that doesn't necessarily take into account the types of food that you can eat, because for the most part you could get away with eating processed foods, eating sweets, eating donuts, eating whatever it is, eating like fried meats, processed meats, whatever it is. You could get away with eating all that stuff but still being inside of your macros. Obviously your diet couldn't consist of 100% processed stuff, because for the most part your carbs and your fats would be well out of line, but if you can, when you eat 2 macros and you're not necessarily that conscious about eating processed foods, you can then sort of fall into the trap of just using them just to make sure that you hit your macros, which is great if you just want to look great. If you just want to look good, you just want to, if you just want to concentrate on physique and you're concentrating on how you look, then eating to your numbers, eating to your macros, for the most part, is going to get you there. But, and there's a big but for us, and for how we see training, and for how I see training and your health. We're training to be healthier. We're training to live a healthier, fitter, stronger lifestyle. So by eating all those processed foods, I think and just eating specifically to the numbers without taking into account sort of what you're eating quite so much, you're missing out. You're really, firstly, eating to the detriment of your health, and secondly, really missing out on sort of that extra 10% that are going to make you look that little bit better, help you feel better, help you just have more energy, help you, when you have more energy, you want to do more things, get out there, do more, make use of your newly found functional fitness, getting out there outside of the gym. I think it all leads in to just being able to live a better and live a healthier, live a stronger, fitter, overall a much, much better lifestyle. And like I said, when you just eat to the numbers, you can very often just disregard eating fresh meats, fresh veg, nuts, seeds, whatever it is, all the good stuff, all the fresh, wholesome, nutrient-dense foods, and just eat to the numbers. And that becomes a very difficult trap, or something very difficult to be in or something that you shouldn't be doing when you are trying to also eat for your health and not only eat just for the purpose of physique. For the most part, I think you probably couldn't really make your macros or hit your numbers on a daily basis if you were just eating processed foods. I think if you were just eating processed foods, there is no doubt that I don't think that you would be able to reach your numbers and be able to sort of reach them regularly and with sort of good effect. In that case, there does have to be a very, very big focus on eating fresh meats, fresh veg, nuts, seeds, fruit, all wholesome, nutrient-dense food sources. Because it is in those wholesome, nutrient-dense food sources that we get the benefits of eating to support our health, and rather than just eating to make the numbers. And this is something that we've sort of tried to, and like I said, it's come from a client interaction, and this is something I've had to explain very recently to work with one of our clients to remove. We transferred and tried to get them onto, or testing out is rather the better term to use, testing out them tracking macros. They haven't done it previously, so we're testing out them tracking macros. For me, and the way we see it, I think for the most part, tracking your macros is sort of a very accurate way to go about your nutrition. Of course, you can just eat intuitively. You don't necessarily have to track your macros. It's absolutely not the only way to do it, and we don't cookie cutter approach to each of our clients when we work with them. For us, it's not a cookie cutter approach, and it doesn't mean that macros is for everyone and macros is the best way to get everyone results, because sometimes macros just isn't a possibility for them depending on their lifestyle. Sometimes an intuitive eating approach where they sort of just go through, follow some general guidelines, whether it is to make sure that there are 2 veg in at least 2 meals every day, make sure there is protein, carbs and fats in every meal. Eating like that can sometimes reap huge benefits to someone that is sort of never really had a focus of their nutrition towards their health. So it's not definitely not the only way that we use, and it's not the only way that you can use to make progress. But for the most part, macros and tracking your macros is the most accurate way Obviously, there is some variance in things, and you can be like a couple of hundred, 100, 200, 300 calories out, depending on how well you are able to track and how well you can weigh and measure and all that stuff, and making sure you scan in or pick the right option when you type something into MyFitnessPal, and picking the right one and make sure it's the closest to what you are actually consuming. Obviously, there is some variance, and that's something that you can manipulate and something that you can control, so that you make sure that you are as close to where you think you should be as possible. But yeah, it is the most accurate. For the most part, it is the most accurate. So it's something that we try and get clients to sort of test and track out, because also it's a very good way to then lead them on to intuitive eating, where they can have a much clearer idea of sort of what they're eating, how much is in each food. But I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into the second part. But yeah, like I said, macros does definitely not always lend itself to you eating towards the benefit of your health, because you can very, very easily get caught up in throwing in something like donuts. You need carbs, so throwing down like a donut just to meet your carbs. And we all know that donuts are not necessarily to the benefit of our health, more so to the detriment. But obviously, it goes without saying that everything in balance as well. So it's not to say that you should cut out all the processed stuff. It's about limiting and reducing, and sort of making sure that you have balance, and making sure that you try. I spoke about this, I think it was episode 3, where we talk about consistency over perfection. And it is, again, about having consistency, like taking that 85-90% on a daily basis, and that 10% where you're just not quite there, where you dip into something like a biscuit or something that helps you keep you on track. It's fine to have that 10% in the other direction if it is that 10% in the other direction that is going to help you keep moving in the right direction. If it starts then becoming sort of 30%, 40%, 50%, then it is a real issue, and you need to sort of change things up and see what is working and what isn't working. Because clearly what you are doing then, if you're sort of 50% eating well, 50% eating processed, or eating bad foods, quote unquote bad foods, then there is something that you probably need to change. But yeah, I think it is, when you eat to your macros and when you are trying to eat to your macros, it is important to remember not to get caught up in the numbers, but to make sure that you are also eating for your health as well. Having the balance between making the numbers and sort of making sure that you eat fresh fruit, fresh meats, fresh veg, nuts, seeds, fruits. Eating fresh, wholesome, nutrient-dense foods are then going to also help you move towards sort of a healthier lifestyle. But also, funny thing happens when you do meet the numbers, and you do it by eating nutrient-dense, wholesome food sources. You get that extra 10% in your physique. Helps you feel healthier, you feel better, you have more energy, you sleep better, you train better. If everything is dialed in, you are hitting your numbers and you are hitting your macros through nutrient-dense food sources, then you have a much, much, much better opportunity to get to your goals. Not only faster, to some extent, you will get there faster. Obviously, things take time, but you can get there much, much faster than you would do if you were just mashing your way through the numbers with no regard for eating good quality foods. But also, you will feel better, more energy, train better, sleep better, all the good stuff, which is all the way that we want to go. And also, sort of aside from just your numbers and just focusing on consumption, the impact processed foods have on your gut health. And your gut health there is research to show that your gut has a direct link to your brain and directly has an impact on mood, and can directly control mood and directly control how you feel, sleep, and all that stuff. So it goes without saying then that if you are eating processed foods and you are wondering why, your diet consists of a lot of processed foods and you're wondering why you lack energy, why you struggle to sleep, why you struggle to really train hard, you really need to have a look at how you're eating and perhaps make quote-unquote better choices in terms of the foods that you're eating, like swapping out sweets for some fruit, or that's a pretty good swap. As an example, that's something that I do pretty frequently. Not that I struggle to avoid sweets; they're not something that I tend to like to eat. For me, I don't really like eating sweets. Doesn't really do it for me. Bread is the one for me. Like, really struggle with eating bread. But yeah, swapping out something sweet, like sweets, for an orange, for like a really like sweet, juicy orange. Give it a try. Next time you do feel like that sugar craving, sink your teeth into an orange or an apple. For me, apples in the fridge. Pink lady apples, for anyone that knows. Big fan. Swap sweets out. Try it out. For me, it works really, really well. Gets rid of that sugar craving, and you've made sort of a quote-unquote good choice rather than eating those sweets. But yeah, like I said, coming back to gut health, the impact that your gut has on your mood, how you feel, your energy, is absolutely massive. So if you can imagine that you are shoveling down processed foods on a daily basis, there is no wonder that you do feel like you have low energy. You do feel like you struggle to sleep. You do feel like you got no go. You know, it goes. Then it is obvious in that case that you need to switch up and try and remove some of the processed foods as much as you possibly can, and reducing them. Not to say removing them completely, going cold turkey for the long term is not the best way, or not a very, very effective way to go about removing things from your nutrition. And that sort of leads on just a little bit that I'll cram in before we go to the break. Long term, when we work with clients, we're all about making sort of long-term lasting changes to their lifestyle, making new habits, making good habits, because when things become habitual, it becomes easy, and when things are easy, you can do them for a very long time. When things are second nature, when you automatically decide to go for chicken, veg, and some form of rice or lentils, that sort of thing, when you automatically default to that as a nice meal rather than a 14-inch pizza with piles of cheese and all that shit, when you automatically default to that fresh, wholesome, nutrient-dense meal, then it makes things very, very easy for yourself. And that there is, in itself, is a lifestyle change that will be around for the long term. And I think it's all about, a lot of what you see these days is all quick fixes and do this in 12 weeks or do this in 2 weeks or whatever it is, all that shit. You know what I mean? All those detox teas and those kinds of things. But I think the real benefit is not chasing the short-term gains, not chasing the 2 weeks, the 4 weeks, the 6 weeks, the 12 weeks, but really sort of the 12-month, the 18-month, the 2 years, the 5 years, 10 years. Going after those changes is the best way to make the biggest gains over the longest period, and making active changes to your lifestyle to make you healthier, help you lead a fitter, healthier, stronger lifestyle overall. So yeah, take a quick break. When we come back after the break, start off talking a little bit how we work with clients to meet them where they're at in terms of their nutrition, and then I'll get into my sort of thoughts on after finishing the Chimp Paradox audiobook. Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I really do appreciate your time. So as a thank you for tuning in, we're offering you 1 month of fully individualized custom programming with full access to myself as your head coach, along with access to a Fitbot account and full nutrition guidance as each of our individual clients gets. So to get involved, fire us an email at info@fortemtraining.com, include your name and
what episode you saw this advert on, and I'll get right back at you to get you set up with your Fitbot account and to get you going on your first month of free programming.
Hey guys, what's going on, and welcome back. Just a short little break there. Got myself a drink. Macros is talk of the topic, or is talk of the show today, is probably the right way to say. But yeah, like you said, at the very, very top of the show, we are now on Stitcher and on iTunes. So if you are watching on YouTube and you prefer just to listen, you can listen to us over on Stitcher on Android or on iTunes on iPhone. Hopefully that makes it much easier for you to consume the episodes as and when you want to listen to them. Also, if you are watching on YouTube, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. The video is something that I definitely wanted to do and something that I will definitely continue to create for each and every episode for the time being. So in the first half, talked a little bit about why macros don't always benefit your health. So I'm going to start off this second half talking a little bit about how we work with clients and how we work around sort of our nutrition processes, and then finishing off talking a little bit about the Chimp Paradox and my thoughts on that and what I took away. So yeah, working with clients on the nutrition. For us, there is, like I said, I think I did mention it in the first part, there is absolutely no cookie cutter approach. So like macros is probably for us the most accurate and the most obvious way to sort of make straight changes to someone's nutrition is just give them the macros, hit those numbers. But that is not what we do with our clients. That is absolutely not what we do. Don't give them numbers and then there you go, get on with it. We have a huge nutrition guide that is been put together that each of our clients use, and it's something that you can refer back to when they get stuck. It outlines everything that they need to know, and I think that's a big part, an overarching factor in everything that we do with our clients, whether it is working on their lifestyle, whether it is nutrition or their training, and it is educating them, helping them understand why we do things and why things look like they do, and why we want them to do certain things, and sort of why we get them to do certain things. And that sort of leads into sort of what we do with all our clients. When they first come on board, we have an assessment. So we let them first week, we let them sort of write down. We have 2 week, sort of a 2-ish week or a week assessment period. Depends on how well versed they are in tracking or how well versed they are on their nutrition already. But this sort of determines that. So the first week will determine if there is a second week, and that's how we work it. So we fire them through the assessment process and fully explain why we do the assessment process and why it is 1 week for some and 2 weeks for others, or 10 days, or whatever it might be. Sort of, like I said, there is no cookie cutter approach, so things can change. We have general processes that we put them through in terms of we have the assessment, then we take them on to the next step and the next step and the next step. But each of those steps can look very different for each client, all of which comes within sort of some general rules that we follow on how we work with clients and how we get them to where they want to be in terms of their nutrition. Working around lifestyle is a big thing that we take into account, because not everyone is different. No cookie cutter approach. Everyone is very, very different. Everyone leads different lives, and we're not working to align everyone's lives to this magic lifestyle, because that's not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is make it work best for each individual and meet them where they are at in terms of their lifestyle, in terms of where they currently are with their nutrition, which we get from the assessment that we do. But yeah, helping them sort of understand how they can make things work around their lifestyle, but not only making things work around their lifestyle, but taking nutrition as a priority, because nutrition has huge benefit. Having good nutrition and having beneficial nutrition has huge benefits to not only just their training and getting them to whether their goals are to lose a couple of kilos, whether it is lose some body fat, lower their body fat percentage, pack on some muscle, add 20 kilos to your back squat, whatever their goal is, just to be healthier, if that's just generally the goal, then nutrition has a huge part to play, and helping them understand that nutrition has that such a big role to play in whatever it is that they want to achieve, or wherever it is they want to go in terms of their life, is a big step in helping them make nutrition their priority, and helping them take nutrition to sort of near the top of the list in terms of their lifestyle, and then sort of meeting them where they're at currently to help them best make progress on their nutrition, and help them best take steps in the right direction to sort of make positive, lasting, long-term changes. And sort of like I said in the first part, at the end of part one, making those lasting changes, making those good habits, and sort of making things for the long term, wanting to make long-term changes, is what we also help our clients understand, is that we are really shooting for the long term, really shooting to make those big changes over long term, so that they are lasting. So we're not 3 months, they're burnt out, they're done with their nutrition, they're back piling down sugar and piling down donuts, whatever it is. We don't get that sort of the spike and then the drop off. What we get is that steady incline over the long term, so that we end up somewhere up around here, rather than going to here and then diving off very short term. That is a big part about what we do, and sort of it all comes back again to educating our clients and helping them to understand why we do things. So that is a big part. So every step we sort of explain, and take the time to explain, and take the time to answer all questions that we get, taking the time to explain why we do the assessment, why your assessment might be shorter than others, or why it might be longer, why then we may take them on to a macro tracking cycle, or a intuitive eating cycle, dependent on where they're at. Those are the two main things that we use. So dependent on if a client has tracked macros before, I think there's huge benefit in tracking macros, even just for 10 days. Even if you just do it for 10 days and you do it as accurately as possible, and this is something we try and explain, it is 10 days. It might be a pain in the ass just for 10 days, but that's 10 days in your entire life. 10 days out of 1 year. 1 year, 365 days. 10 days, you are going to know so much more about how much volume of food to eat, about how the nutrient density of some foods, roughly how much protein there is, roughly how much carbs, roughly how much fat. You're going to have such a better idea of the nutrient density of foods, and what foods are more nutrient dense and what foods are less nutrient dense. And you're going to have such a more clear idea of all that, even if you just spend 10 days tracking your macros and tracking everything that you eat, weighing and measuring, just for 10 days. So I suggest that is a big suggestion from me. If you've never tracked your macros, if you've never done that before, spend the next 10 days tracking everything as closely as you possibly can. It might be a pain in the ass for 10 days, but after that, when you go back to eating intuitively, quote unquote intuitive eating, you are going to have such a better idea of the foods you need to eat, the kinds of foods that you should be eating, the much better idea of sort of how nutrient dense things are, how much roughly, not to say you'll know exactly, but roughly how much protein is in a chicken breast, roughly how much carbs are in sort of this pile of pasta or this pile of rice, how much that pile of rice weighs, and is it the right amount, is it too much, is it not enough. You're going to have a much better idea of sort of how the volumes of foods that you need to be eating, the volume of food you need to eat on a daily basis, without then tracking. So if that's something that we do with all of our clients that have never tracked before, is get them to track for just a short period of time, see how they get on with it. if they like it, if they like the accuracy, if they don't mind it, if it fits around their lifestyle, again, like I said, no cookie cutter approach, so we adjust things based from client to client. If they enjoy doing it, they don't mind doing it, it fits around their lifestyle, it's something that they think they can do long term, or at least for a good few months, then we'll stick with it. We'll stick with macros, and we'll stick with them eating to those macros, and then in that time that they spend eating to the numbers, we will then further educate on sort of not just eating, like we spoke about in the first half, is why macros don't always benefit the health, because ultimately for most clients we are training for health, eating for health and all that stuff so we can live a better lifestyle. Educate in that time, help them understand that just hitting those numbers is great if you want to look good, but looking good is not the longest term solution to leading a healthier lifestyle. Ultimately, your health as a whole, through eating nutrient dense, wholesome food sources, and hitting those numbers is the best way to go about not only hitting their goals in the short term, or hitting their goals in that sort of 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 2 years, 5 years, but making sort of health gains over 10, 20, 30 years time. And yeah, that is pretty much it in terms of how we work around with our clients and how we work things. The fundamental basis of it all is that there is no cookie cutter approach. That we don't have a cookie cutter approach. We realize that everyone is different. Everyone has different things. They have different things going on. They have different jobs, different lifestyles. They train at different times. That's a small one, training at different times, but their lifestyle as a whole looks very different one to another. Some very similar, but also everyone is different as an individual and how they feel about things as well. Some don't enjoy tracking, some don't mind, some enjoy the accuracy is the right word, the accuracy of it and how accurate it can be compared to just intuitive eating, because you have numbers that you eat to, and you have like you then have physical data of the numbers and whether you go up or down from there, and making adjustments on that basis. It's not something we force on. It's not something we enforce, like in terms of the tracking the macros. We don't say this is what you've got to do. We work with them, work with our clients, work very, very closely as to help them get to a place that best fits their lifestyle, but also making their nutrition a priority, because their nutrition has a huge, huge, huge benefit across the board, not only to their health, but to helping them, give them more energy, helping them sleep better, helping them train better. Across the board, dialing in your nutrition has huge, huge benefits. Finish off the podcast. Final part. The Chimp Paradox. I finished the Chimp Paradox. It is, I think it's about 10 hours, something like that. Those of you that have listened to it, you'll know how long it is. It is I think it's 9 or 10 hours, 9 or 10 hour audiobook. I think I mentioned it a couple of episodes ago. I found that I much better consume audio information than I do consume consume text. So Audible, I highly, highly recommend it. Chimp Paradox is the first one I've listened to. Finished it a couple of days ago. I can't remember exactly when it was, but it was a couple of days ago. Finished the Chimp Paradox. Started off, so give my thoughts. Started off very, very well, my overall thoughts, and then I will talk through a little bit what I took from it. So yeah, it started off very, very well, very interesting. There was a lot of things that I could relate to in terms of sort of those of you that know the Chimp Paradox, you've read it, the differences between the human and the chimp, and that's something that I took from it, is I can definitely tell a difference between quote unquote the human and quote unquote the chimp in terms of their responses and how you respond to situations and how you answer questions, how you respond to questions as well, and those sorts of things I can definitely tell a big difference between the two, which is something when I first started listening to it, I was a little bit skeptical about sort of the theory behind it and theory behind the human and the chimp and how it works. But I definitely think I can definitely tell a difference in the responses and in the actions of the human versus the chimp in terms of myself. So yeah, started off very, very interesting. Lost my way a little bit through sort of the middle part of the book. Just through sort of not quite understanding the parts. Those of you that read it, you talked when there is talk of moons and planets, that sort of stuff, sort of a little bit straight over. Didn't quite understand. That's probably something that I will have to re-listen, and I think the book as a whole, I will have to re-listen or reread to really understand and really fully grasp sort of the concepts, particularly the moons and the planets. I think that little bit for me sort of was a little bit, I didn't quite understand quite so much. But then the book finished very, very strongly, talking about confidence and sort of mindset shifts from the human and the chimp, from the chimp to the human, and making sure you manage the chimp and that sort of stuff. Particularly the stuff about confidence, very, very interesting. Made a lot of sense. Made a lot of sense, and I think in the final part of the book there was a lot of crossover with the growth mindset book. The author again escapes me on that one. Those of you that have read it, you'll know the book Growth Mindset. If you have read that, you will understand. I have not finished that book. I've read the first quarter or something or other. I have not yet finished it. But yeah, that is a very, very good book. That's another one that I highly recommend. The Growth Mindset is a very, very good book. But there was a lot of crossover in the final sort of two or three chapters of the Chimp Paradox and the Growth Mindset, talking a little bit about confidence and talking a little bit about mindset shift and those kinds of things. So yeah, overall, started really, 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 really well. Had a really good understanding. Made some changes. I did implement some changes. I'll talk through a little bit of them now. What I took away from the book: managing the chimp does leave a much easier lifestyle. I absolutely promise you. Managing the chimp, having reasonable perspective, and taking the reasonable perspective of the human really does mean sort of less arguments and less animosity is probably the best word to use. And sort of the chimp can be, and some responses that seem to come from the chimp can be aggressive. They can be sort of lacking perspective and those kinds of things. So when you do have the automation of automatically going with the human responses and with human actions and managing the chimp, you do tend to be in a place that is a much easier life. For the most part, is a much easier place to be. Another takeaway for me: taking a calm approach through the human is always a better option. Like having the calm approach, having the perspective, like I just mentioned there, having that perspective is a huge benefit. And it's something that I really took away is the first couple of chapters of the book really made me aware of the differences between my chimp and human. And I think I spoke about it when I first spoke on the book, was my differences between the chimp and the human, sort of in terms of things that I wanted to do and things that I didn't want to do. I sort of managed to I got to a point where I could better manage the chimp and tell myself that, these things need to be done. Like whether it was replying to messages, or that was the example that I used a couple of episodes ago, was replying to messages. What was the other? I can't remember what the other one was. Replying to messages, replying to emails, getting things done. A lot of the time, I was finding that the chimp was sort of taking over and saying that, I don't really want to do that. But first couple of chapters and really digging into the first couple of chapters really allowed me to better manage the chimp and be much better control of the chimp, and be in better control of my actions through the human, and sort of really being the person I really wanted to be. Seems a lot to come from the first couple of chapters, but I think the first couple of chapters are very, very interesting, and just that the thought of the chimp versus the human is something that really resonated with me and something that I really, really understood. But yeah, to sort of encompass that and to finish up before we outro, it started really well. Really enjoyed the first couple of chapters. Through the middle, got a little bit lost, and I will have to re-listen to those middle sort of chapters to really understand the talk of the moons and the planets and those kinds of things. Then finished very, very well with sort of talking about confidence and mindset shift. So I highly, highly recommend, if you have not listened to it, you definitely do need to listen to the Chimp Paradox. Those of you that are watching on YouTube, apologies, didn't have a chance to reset the camera before this final bit and the outro, so there is not going to be any video from this point, but if you are listening, great, no changes. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for tuning in. This has probably been one of my favourite episodes so far. Like I said, this episode is the first one that has been recorded since episode 1 went live. So we are now available on iTunes. We are available on Stitcher on Android, YouTube, and on SoundCloud if you still want to listen on SoundCloud. Again, thank you so much for all the support that you've had so far. I really do appreciate it. I hope the listenership will continue to grow over the coming episodes, and I certainly hope that you will continue to enjoy these podcasts. They hopefully will. Plan is for, hopefully, very soon, we'll get in some guests involved on the podcast, which I'm really, really, really looking forward to. So I really want to learn as much as I possibly can from some people in the area of their own expertise. So that's going to be very, very interesting. But you will be notified, or you will see as soon as the episode goes live, as to whether we have a guest on or not. But yeah, that is something that is hopefully coming very, very soon. Then, to finish off, if you do not follow on Instagram at Fortem.training, please do now go and follow. If you do not follow me at Kieran Douglas Jones, please do now go and follow. A whole lot of content going out. Excuse me. A whole lot of content going out, particularly on my Instagram. A lot of training work, a lot of stuff, mostly, for the most part, a lot of it is on training. There are a lot of videos. Hopefully there is a lot of value that you can take from that. On the Fortem Training Instagram, we're putting together some more content that is coming your way. There's a lot of previews at the moment of the podcast, so you get to see a little bit about leading up to sort of the episode that is going to be released. You get a little bit of sort of a sneak peek at what is to come, so you can see if the episode is for you or not. If you do have any questions, I would love it if you had any questions. Please do fire them my way. Either slide in our DMs, not info, that's the email. Slide in our DMs at Fortem.training or at Kieran Douglas Jones. I will answer them right there in the DMs, and I'm also, if may well get them answered, also on the podcast. So please do fire through your questions if you do have any. If you're watching on YouTube, please leave a like. If you are watching on iTunes, please leave us a rating. Please leave us a 5-star review if you did enjoy. That really, really would help. That would really mean the world. Thank you so much for watching on YouTube. Thank you so much for listening wherever you are listening. Thank you for listening to episode 7. And I will see you again, and you will hear my voice in episode number 8. Thanks for listening.